It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, where we break down the Australian property market, the twists, the turns, the headaches, and the elation. Yes, because people experience different things all at once. And is there something that you'd like us to explore more deeply in terms of subject matter? If you've got a question, an idea, or a real estate concern that has been on your mind, what you do is you send that through. We've got a growing community of listeners, and the more insights, the more opinions and experiences that we share, the better the conversation becomes. And if you enjoy the podcast, do us a favour, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That is going to help us reach even more people. And you can send us a voice message. That link is in the show notes, or the trusty email at myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Where has the week gone, eh? It has rapidly disappeared. We are up to a Friday morning, May the 22nd. And Ivor Davies, the frontman singer of the legendary Australian rock band Icehouse, great southern land, a great band. He was born, in fact, in Wauchope in New South Wales, celebrating 71 years on the planet. Ivy Davies, happy birthday to you. And also, if you are celebrating your birthday, as we take you to Brisbane to catch up with Leanne Spring from Tailored Buyers Agents, were you an Icehouse fan?
Oh, I definitely was, Craig. I definitely grew up in that era, and myself and my girlfriends loved them.
Yes, a fantastic group. So let's have a look at capitalising where the market currently is, and perhaps some people capitalising on the market hesitation because prospective buyers, they are hitting the pause button, which is fair enough because everybody's situation is different. We don't all run at the same speed. However, when there is this hesitation in the market, some people will pounce like a lion. And are you seeing that in your market?
Yeah, definitely, Craig. It's these sort of moments that while some people sort of back off and get nervous, other buyers see the opportunities, jump on that less competition market.
For the average buyer, what are the immediate tactical advantages of buying when everyone else is waiting? How do people leverage this reduced competition to secure a property perhaps a little more easily?
So less competition means that the buyers are in a position now that they can negotiate that little bit tighter. They can push their requirements a little bit harder. So it opens up a few opportunities for better negotiations.
Now, real estate, it isn't a short game, although we have the reno space, but that really has tightened up dramatically with the cost factor of trying to make fast money and make the numbers actually work. You should be playing the long game rather than reacting to temporary market fear. Now, when evaluating a market, what should buyers look for to ensure a property has, first off, genuine potential growth for years to come, and that is regardless of immediate economic shifts in the market?
So when you're looking at a property, Craig, you really need to have a look at its fundamentals. And the reality is there's two parts to a property. There's its land and then it's the asset on top. The reality is the land is the part that keeps continuing to go up. You want to make sure you've got a high land, as they call land to asset ratio. You want to make sure that the land is worth more than the asset that you put on top that is going to get older and depreciate.
Yeah, and talking of those older buildings, if we talk about the danger of unapproved structures, which is out there. It's common. Buyers are willing to take on properties with these unapproved council structures, and some buyers will actually look past this to secure a home. But, in doing so, the consequences, they can be severe, cost you a lot of money. So perhaps just talk through the biggest risks that a buyer faces when taking on an illegal structure, particularly regarding insurance, which is a key position to all of this to factor in.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to be very, very careful. Most people don't realise that whacking a granny flat in the backyard to get yourself a little bit more rent then turns your property into an investment property. So no longer does your normal home insurance cover your structure. Now, say someone leaves a candle on overnight and then suddenly burns down your granny flat, which takes over your house. There goes your home insurance. So a quick cash grab for some extra money to pay your mortgage off without council approval of your structure could land you in a lot of hot water.
Next week, we are going to continue our conversation next Thursday with Brad from Tiny Deluxe Homes. He's giving us the lowdown on the spaces that he's building. Brad has got a company that is very compliant. But this granny flat stuff on the back of people's properties, of what you're talking about, have you noticed that there's been somewhat of an explosion, or is it more like, there's more interest in this area?
Yeah, definitely there has been. Since the prices in Brisbane have gone up and people are starting to feel the pinch with their mortgages, they're all looking for that extra little bit of a cash grab to help them hold their asset. So it's definitely out there, and there's a lot of interstate buyers agents that are promoting it as well as the way to turn your investment property into a cash flow positive property.
Now, if you've got one of these granny flats that Leanne is talking about and it's not compliant, do yourself a favour, make sure that you are installing multiple fire smoke alarms. That is the minimum that you can do, because it's one thing to have something that is not compliant and is not going to cover you in the insurance factor, which you've explained. Something burns down and, God forbid, it catches the main house on fire and then you are left with nothing. So, put the smoke detectors in, eh? How many people do we know that don't have those?
Yeah, it's incredible how many people will take that risk. It's certainly not a risk I would like to take.
That's for sure. All right, we are talking to Leanne. She is in Brisbane. When we come back, we're going to talk about price guide confusion and also auctions. We'll do that after this.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week. Ready to take your real estate knowledge to the next level? So are we.
Selling something off the plan was a really challenging task.
Some of these markets do have a higher concentration of investor activity.
You've seen lots of even high-income families are paying 40% towards 45% to the household. But if the salary caught up, everything will be increased, which means inflation will be horrible, which means the government will increase the cash rate again.
Let's fuel your passion for property together.
500,000 Aussie will certainly get you a nice 2 or 3 bedroom villa.
Greg, is incredible. It's phenomenal.
Brighton, there was a record set on the Esplanade for over $6.5 million.
Should not be charging any buyers for the service that they're offering.
Remember, we are not a real estate company.
With selective growth, there's parts of Melbourne that have grown really well.
Explore new property destinations where you could live.
I feel that people are choosing lifestyle and where they want to live.
Listen to in-depth discussions with industry leaders on investing options, understanding different suburbs with insider perspectives and exclusive tips. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast.
It is a Real Estate Friday. The weekend is calling us, and Leanne in Brisbane is with us. Yeah, let's have a look at the budget reality checks and price guide confusion. Well, price guide confusion first off, because properties are increasingly hitting the market without a price or going straight to auction. Now, when these price guides are vague or non-existent, what do you think reliable data points should a buyer use to just sort of help clarify and help figure out what a property is realistically worth?
I see people making the mistake of looking on realestate.com and having a look at what's on the market at the moment and trying to compare prices. But the easiest way is to actually have a look at what's actually sold. So press the sold tag on realestate.com and that'll actually show you not what they were hoping to sell for, but what they actually sold for. Then you can find yourself some comparables in there. But just a word of warning, that's usually 2 or 3 weeks behind before it's recorded. So you want to be in the market and actually seeing day to day what's actually happening in your area. But a quick check on the real estate sales portal will certainly help you, give you some sort of guidance into what the price is.
Yeah, because underquoting, we know that this is a major problem. We've spoken about one individual losing his license for 10 years. You're seeing that in your market?
Yes, definitely. It's one of those fine line things that sales agents use in their tactical box to drag in more clients. If they put the price up, people might get scared away. They tend to drop that price down a little bit, drag people in. Hopefully they'll get emotional and then they'll, find the money and raise to where it actually should be. And there's laws around how low you can go.
Yeah, so just watch for that because that is a tactic, unfortunately, still being used. Now, walking into an auction blind, how many of you are doing this or overshooting your budget? It's a massive fear for everyday buyers. Leanne, you have to be so prepared here to navigate aggressive auction environments without overcommitting financially or letting the emotion dictate the bidding limits. How much of this under preparation when it comes to auctions are you observing this year?
There's a lot of that at this point in time. A lot of people have been missing out here in Brisbane, and you'll see a wife and a husband team and they'll start getting emotional and trying to find that extra cash to make sure they don't miss out again. And sometimes, you've got to be able to have that walk away figure where you unemotionally say, well, that's it, I walk away. Otherwise, you can really get yourself in some hot water.
I always say that, if you go into something like an auction, treat it like it's an investment property. Even though you're the end user, you're going to be living in the property. But that is a complete turnkey in the brain if you just think like that from an investor's point of view rather than an emotional point of view. Do you think that's good advice?
Love the advice, definitely. Having that, once it gets past where it's financially and viable as an investment, definitely. It's a great way of looking at it, Craig.
All right, we'll leave it there. That's the way to use your brain when at an auction. Leanne, great to catch up with you on this Friday. Enjoy the weekend coming up. And thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week.
The negative gearing borrowing power has been smashed. It's pretty much been demolished. Any investors that are going to the bank, they'll be able to borrow a lot less. We'll naturally see a shift in borrowing power between people who are chasing existing properties versus new properties.
Yeah, we talk about how it's become a genuine two-speed housing market right across Australia. Sydney and Melbourne are beginning to soften, while markets like Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide are still ploughing ahead despite those higher rates.
Even pre-budget has meant a lot of capital cities have decreased in value. So the next 12 months, it might not even be a case of who's going to increase the most. It could even be who's going to decrease the least.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.